Hi everyone. So today we are going to see what is a TMMi, how to implement the TMMi into the project as a process consultant. So consider it's a guide for TMMi maturity model and how it should be implemented in a software development projects. So let's move ahead. Let's first understand what is a TMMi. TMMi is a test maturity model integration. It's a comprehensive framework designed to improve the software testing processes and elevate quality assurance standards across the organization. So first of all, we understand why the TMI model is being needed. We had a CMI model, that is a capability maturity model for the organization. But what the CMI model was covering, like it was covering entire processes for the organization. So it was covering right from the sales and requirement phase, and then estimation, planning phase, project management phase, up to the operations mode. So there was a need to focus on the quality perspective, to focus on the testing perspective. So there are a lot of phases into the testing, like test case writing phase, first of all test planning phase, test data preparation phase, and then test case writing, test design phase, automation script development phase, then test execution phase, defect triaging phase. So these different phases are there, and there was a need for process improvement into these particular phases. And that's the reason TMI model has been came into the place. So it is based on the philosophy of a capability maturity model, where there are particular phases, and every phase has an improvement into the process of the framework. So this is the same kind of a framework into the testing, but which is specifically for the testing. What TMI does, TMI provides a structured approach to assess and enhance the testing maturity, enabling organization to transition from the ad hoc reactive testing to systematic and proactive quality assurance. Once any kind of a team starts with the testing, it is a kind of an ad hoc testing. They just look at the requirement, start writing the test cases, and as per their understanding on the requirement, and then they do the execution. Sometimes it is only a cycle one execution, get the defects, and then they ask developers to resolve those defects, and then they test the defect and close, and that's all. That's the testing which they have performed. But there wasn't any kind of a structure or quantitative analysis kind of things into those processes. That's the reason there was a requirement of a TMI model. What does TMI model actually benefits to the organization? First of all, it enhances the test coverage and defect detection. There are structured process to analyze what the test coverage, analyzing the test cases, how it covers the requirements. There is a test traceability matrix document which has to be created, which analyzes every particular requirement has one or more test cases, or one test cases has one or more requirements. So this is one to many and many to one mapping over the requirement, and the test cases ensure that particular test coverage has been analyzed over the entire testing phase. Second benefit is reduced production incident and costs. Once the defect has been leaked from the requirement phase, it goes to the development phase. Once it is missed from the development phase, it goes to the testing phase. Once it is missed from the testing phase, it goes to the production. So until the defect goes into the production, lot of costs got involved into it. Consider if it is caught into requirement phase, we could have saved much cost and the efforts on that particular defect. That's the reason TMI model is implemented, so that it can catch the defects early in the early phases. Other benefit is predictable testing schedules and outcomes. Once we go through the matrices on the testing, the rate of finding the defects into the testing, we can easily predict that how many defects could be there into the upcoming build, and that could very much helpful for the team. Improved resources allocation and efficiency. If we have controlled numbers in our hand, we can easily tell that how many testers be needed to test this particular test execution, whether it's a cycle 1 or a cycle 2. So we have a control on the numbers, so we can analyze how many resources are needed to write the test cases, to design the automation scripts, or whether it's an execution. Increase the stakeholder confidence in quality. When we have structured the testing, when we have a defined structured phases of the testing, and we can tell them with the help of numbers that how controlled we have on the testing phase, then it definitely can increase the confidence over the quality. That's the reason TMMi is there. So let's move ahead, like how the evaluation of the testing maturity has been done. As I said that when there was no structure into the testing, it was kind of an ad hoc testing. It is completely informal, reactive approach. Reactive approach, that means that if something something is happened, then as a reaction we are doing something. That's a reactive approach into the ad hoc testing. So there was no control there. Inconsistent result. Sometimes defect, we are getting a lot of defects in particular module. Sometimes we are getting very less defects in some modules, and there was like no prediction over the quality. Then from this ad hoc testing phase, with the help of TMMi, we move to the defined processes. Then what we are going to do in defined processes, we have documented procedures. We have documented procedures over the test case writing, or the execution, or the script execution, or the status report of the testing. So we have everything defined procedures. We have standards and the techniques which are maintained. We have template for status reporting. We have template for test case. We have template for traceability matrix. So this is the kind of a defined processes. Once we have a defined, we move on to the next phase, that is the optimized phase. If you remember, I have told the optimization phase into CMMi model as well in my another video. What is optimized? It is a matrix given. What are the different matrices into the testing? Which is the defect density, test cases efficiency. What does test case efficiency means? Test case efficiency means number of defects which are coming out of the test cases which are written. That means how effective are your test cases. We are doing two types of testing. We are doing test execution over the test cases, and we are doing the test exploratory testing as well. If the number of defects coming out of exploratory testing is more, that means your test cases are not efficient, because more or defects are coming from the exploratory testing. Then the continuous improvement processes and predictability. Once we move and once we grow into the field, we can easily predict how many defects can become. We grow ahead into the process, we can easily predict that how much time which is needed for resolving the defects, how critical defects will be there in the future. And this all things will result into the high quality of outcomes. So this is what the structure of a TMMi. So what TMMi does, it guides the organization through this transformation, providing a roadmap from chaos to excellence into the software testing. So let's move ahead and understand that what is the TMMi structure is actually. how it is been structured. There is a module components. What is the module components? Maturity level, process area, specific goal, generic practices, which entirely form the foundation of the TMI. Like there are different 5 maturity levels into the CMI, there are different maturity levels into TMI as well. There are different process areas. Process area for test execution, process area for test development. Even the test data driven policies, like there are processes aligned from the TMI for the test data. There are specific goals for each and every processes, and there are practices. This particular practice has been majorly monitored by the Center of Excellence of the testing team from the organization. Let's go to the what are the different 5 maturity levels. Like CMI, there are 5 different maturity levels in TMI as well. The progression gets started from the initial phase. It is kind of an ad hoc. There's no processes. Then it goes to the managed. In managed, we have some of the processes been implemented, but moreover, a management control comes into this particular phase. So we have some kind of a structure and some kind of a control from the management. Then we go to the defined. In defined, we have more or structure defined, a lot of templates, a lot of kind of quantitative analysis, and a lot of particular structure over how to write the test cases, how to do the execution, how to raise the defect, what is the structure or format of a defect should be. So everything comes into the defined phase. We define these processes. Then we move to the measured one. Measured one is basically depends on the matrices. Like I said, there are different metrics into the testing: defect density, test case efficiency, the defects coming out of the 1000 lines of code, or the rate of defect fixing, the rate of defect retesting, the time which is required for the defect testing, and time which is required for test execution, cycle 1, cycle 2, regression testing time, the coverage of the regression testing, automation, percentage of the automation into the testing. So all these matrices are there. So all this comes under the measured phase of the TMMi model. So once we get all these matrices, management, the senior leadership roles, and the customer can easily implement what kind of an improvement is needed into the testing based upon the numbers. It can easily give us a trend, how the maturity model is going on, how the trend is going on, whether we are improving, whether we are not improving, whether we are lagging somewhere, or whether we are doing something good. We can take a lessons learned out of it. And the last phase is the optimization. So when we have measured everything, we have numbers and everything, and we have control over the testing. Last phase is optimization. In optimization particularly, we are optimizing for the continuous improvement over the processes. And the second thing is we are predicting the outcomes. The prediction is there into the optimization. We are predicting the number of defects coming out of the next phase easily, based upon the numbers and based upon the history of the testing. And that all comes into the optimization phase. These are the 5 different maturity levels into the TMMi. Then we have a process areas, specific domains of the testing practices that must be addressed at each maturity level. There are different domains into the testing. There are different tasks into the testing. There are different business areas where we are doing the testing, and all is different. So TMMi is actually been putting the focus on each and every these process areas. Then we have a representation models. staged approach, level by level, and continuous approach, process by process improvement. As I said that in optimization, we are continuously improving on the processes. And what is the stage approach? Stage approach is level by level we are going. That means we are going from initial level to the managed, to the defined, to the measured, and these are level by level approach. So this is all the test TMMi structure over the time. These are explained in detail here. In TMMi maturity levels, we have initial phase, we have testing in chaotic and unstructured ways. Success depends on the individual hierarchies. Whether we can get success or not get success, it is not, is been calculated here in initial level. It may be that we can get the success, but it is totally depend on what individuals are doing, how individuals are performing. But 90% we are not getting success into this initial phase because there are a lot of unstructured ways. There's no formal test processes exist. Quality is unpredictable. We cannot predict the quality at all. Second level is managed, where the basic test planning and design is established. Testing is tracked against the requirement. Test policies begin to emerge and test environments are managed. So we have a control of a management over the things. Environments are managed, policies are managed, the test design is managed, test planning is in place. So we got the control here. In initial phase, we were not having any kind of control. The third level is defined. We are standardizing the testing processes now. We are taking the templates in place. We are documenting the results. We have a documents at the organization level. So we are standardizing the process at the organization level, not only at the project level. So same kind of test strategy, document template, same kind of test plan, a document template is available for the organization level, not only at the project level. Test strategies are aligned with the development life cycle. We are considering development life cycle milestone. Accordingly, we are aligning our test strategies. So these are all defined. Reviews and inspections are systematic. We are doing inspections, we are doing reviews, and all those are systematic into the defined ways. Then we are into the level 4, which is a measure. Testing is controlled through the metrics and measurement. I already explained like what are the different metrics into the measured area of the testing. Defect prevention is proactive. Once we get the numbers, it can be easily, we can work on the defect prevention. We will avoid the defects. We got to know where is the impact. What is the impact on any particular module? Where there is impact on any particular code. We can easily analyze and we can prevent the defects. Statistical analysis guide the testing decisions and resource allocation. Even these numbers help on the resource allocation. Number of resources which are needed to put on particular things. So all this is measured. And the last phase is optimization, level 5. TMI level 5 is optimization. Continuous improvement through the innovation and technologies. We give the freedom for innovation to the team. Come up with the processes, come up with the improvements, which can save efforts, which can save the timeline, which can save the schedule. Come up with some of the enablers, come up with some of the technical tools which can help to bring in like faster execution, faster test case writing. So all this comes under the optimization. Defect prevention is embedded. Why it is embedded? Because we are bringing up the DevOps processes here. So automatically defect prevention will be embedded with the operations and embedded with the development. Processes are optimized based on the quantitative feedback and emerging best practices. So overall, it is a kind of a prediction and optimization comes into the level 5. Why the TMI matters for your project? So there may be questions from somebody like why I should go for TMI. If we have a many processes available into capability maturity model, that is CMI, why we need a specifically TMI? What are the outcomes? What are the ROI onto this? So let's think about the ROI. Reduction in the production defects. Organization implement TMI level 3 plus reports and significantly decrease in post-release issues. So 65% of the production defects are been, TMI has the capability to reduce the 65% of the defects which are going into production. So that's a huge number, and that's been proved with the help of the numbers which are analyzed for many kind of projects by the TMI organization. So that's the number. 40% is improvement into the test efficiency. Standardize the process, reduce the redundant testing, and optimize resource utilization. Consider an example like test case writing. We are writing the test case for logging any kind of a website. We are putting the username, putting the password, and that particular test case will be repeated on that 800 test cases. So how much time we are wasting on that? Why don't we create a one particular test case and we can repeatedly use that particular test case over the 800? Save the time. 40% of the time will be saved if we standardize that particular test suite. So this has been analyzed that 40% of the time has been saved on the test case efficiency. And the major thing is that stakeholder confidence. Everybody from the CEO level to the project manager level, everybody is concerned about the quality, because that is the image of your organization, directly impacts on image of your organization. If something is failing into the production, if something is failing into the live environment, that definitely hamper onto the your image of the organization. That's the reason stakeholder confidence is very much needed to bring in, and that's the reason quality is very important. Predictable quality and transparent matrices build trust with the client and management. Even client can trust and management can trust. And the study has shown that when we bring up the TMI into the life cycle, 85% of the trust or the confidence from the stakeholders has been seen on the quality. So that's a huge achievement. Then the enhanced test coverage. Systematic approach ensures the comprehensive testing across all requirements, reducing gaps and blind spots into the quality assurance. Majorly test coverages. When we define the test requirement metrics, then the test coverage is ensured that 100% test coverage should be there. There should not be any kind of blind spot there. There should not be any kind of a gap. Predictable schedules. Mature processes enable accurate estimation and planning, eliminating last-minute testing, surprises and delays. Many of the times it has happened that when we are going to close the phase, when we are going to push the code to the production, some kind of critical defects are coming out, and there are surprises. And they are hard to take the decision for the test manager and project manager now what to do. So when the TMI is in place, the prediction of these critical defects easily can be predicted. So this is what the power of the TMI. Now what is the process consultant's role into implementing the TMI? Assess the current maturity. Start with assessing the project, how the testing is happening, where the testers are, whether testers are using any kind of process, whether they have any kind of tools, whether they are automating, whether they have any structured templates available. Assess the current maturity level. Evaluate existing testing processes against the TMI benchmarks. Some kind of a benchmark are there TMI. Evaluate everything from the maturity perspective and establish the baseline maturity level. Whether it's a level 1, level 2, level 3, establish what is the baseline where we are. Second thing is like identify the process gaps. When we assess, we automatically get the process consultant automatically gives what are the gaps are available into the processes. Conduct the gap analysis comparing current practices with TMI requirements for the target maturity level. If you identify that TB is at the level 2, then get the TMI level 2 processes and get the current current processes of the team, map each other, and analyze that whether the team is really at the level 2. That is a process gap analysis. Third is map processes to the TMI. Align the existing workflows with the TMI processes areas and identify required modifications. If TMI is telling that something structured process is there for the level 3 and some kind of a process is being used by the team and there are differences, but the outcome is the same, then analyze that particular process and map that process with the TMI and improve upon some kind of an area and use the same existing process into the TMI, because that flexibility is there into the TMI. Then guide the adoption and the trainings. Facilitate change management. Provide the trainings and ensure team buy-in throughout the implementation. It's very important that you should give a trainings, or you should walk through what is the required test strategies of the TMMi model to the entire team. Guide them how we are implementing the TMMi. And then monitor and measure progress. We have matrices available. Discuss that with the senior leadership and monitor and measure the progress. Track the implementation matrices, conduct audits. Audits can be conducted based upon the TMMi guidelines, whether it's in quarterly, whether it's in monthly, whatever the frequency which has been defined by the organization. Analyze those, conduct the audits over that. Report the non-compliances, report the improvements, report the suggestions over the with the help of the model, and ultimately it all helps into the maturity improvements to the stakeholders. And then step by step how the implementation can be happen with the TMI into the project. The initial assessment. Conduct the comprehensive review to current testing process, tool and team capability. Second step is like define the scope and target. Give the scope and target to the team. Establish implementation boundaries. Determine realistic target maturity level. Don't just go with the model. Give the realistic targets based upon the data, based upon the baseline of the projects. Process mapping. Document existing workflows. Map them to relevant TMI process areas. Document existing workflows. How the current workflows are there into the testing. How we are doing the testing. Map them into the TMI areas. Create documentation. Bring up some kind of a templates for the test strategy. Bring up templates for the test plan. Create the process documentation using the template. Standardize the template. Standardize this template across the organization. Then the quality checklist. Bring up the checklist so that every new person who joins, he can get the checklist and he will know that how to perform the testing. Team training. Walk through and attend the trainings to the team. Educate the QA and test teams on the new processes, new tools, TMI best practices, which can easily help the team to grow from level by level into the TMI model. Deploy the processes. Integrate standardized processes into the project lifecycle with the pilot programs. Bring up the pilot programs to deploy the processes. Conduct the audits, regular audits, monthly, quarterly audits, whatever the frequency you are. Everyone should adhere with the processes. Collect the matrices. Gather the analyze and key matrices, including defect density is there, test coverage is there, cycle time is there. Continuous improvement. Refine the processes based upon metrics, feedback and evolving project needs. Lessons learned is here very important. From lessons learned, we analyze like what is failing and what is the root cause of that particular failing. So we have to avoid that particular failed processes to the next milestone of the project. So this is what is important with the continuous improvement. That's what the steps to implement the TMI model. Now we are moving ahead, and what is the essential TMI process areas? What are the important TMI process areas are there? So we are discussing on that. Test policy and strategy. Establish the organization level Testing standards, define strategic objective, and create governance framework. Bring up the RASI model. In RASI model, we define like who is accountable for what, who is managing what, who is responsible for what particular task. Bring up the RASI model. Create a complete governance structure. How the governance control should be there periodically. How they can analyze the matrices, whether monthly, weekly. What is the frequency? How should be the format of the status report should be there? How should be the test strategy document? So what it contains. So everything we define into test policies and strategies. Then test planning. In test planning, we define like develop the comprehensive test plan aligned with the project scope, timeline, and risk assessment. What is the in-scope items? What is the out-scope items? What kind of tools we are using? What is the schedule, timeline? When we are going to start the milestone? Whether we are analyzing what is the entry criteria, what is the exit criteria of every test steps, whether it's exploratory regression testing or the integration testing. Risk assessment. Find out the risk from the testing perspective. Identify those risks. Identify mitigation plan for those risks. Highlight those risks. Then the test monitoring and control. Track the test execution progress. Identify deviations and implement corrective actions promptly. In the test monitoring, when the test execution is going on, monitor the progress. How many test cases per day, per resource is being executed? What are the automation is been helping to the manual testing processes? How the automation coverage is there? How many test cases are executed? Whether they are parallelly being executed, whether they are executed on a multi-browsers. So analyze everything from a test monitoring perspective and improve upon. If the speed of the testing has been decreased by the critical defects, analyze those. Why the builds are getting failed, and how it is impacting, how we can correct those. Identify the deviation. What is the differences, deviations within the test execution cycles? How many defect leakages there from one phase to another phase? Everything is been monitored into the test monitoring phase. Test design and execution. Create effective test cases using the appropriate techniques and execute systematically. In effective test cases, the test steps are written in such a way that any kind of defects which is coming out, which will be coming out from the test cases, not the exploratory testing. Because test cases are so efficient that it covers the entire coverage of the application, and hence the defects will not be leaked out of that. Defect management. Implement the robust defect tracking, prioritization, and resolution workflows. The defect priority, defect severity. Based upon that, prioritize which defect needs to be fixed first, and highlight those defects to the development team, concerned teams. Have the periodical defect triage meetings with the development teams, and publish the defect report periodically. This is what the defect management, and it has been defined so well into the TMMi process. If you follow that, there will not be any kind of an impact on the defect management. Process improvement and metrics. Continuously refine the testing processes based upon quantitative data and lessons learned. Analyze the process continuously. What went wrong? What went right? Analyze everything. If that particular thing has been went wrong into the past, don't repeat that into the next phase. This is a continuous improvement which needs to be done. And lastly, we are looking at the challenges while implementing the TMMi model. But the process consultant, when he tries to implement the TMMi, what kind of a challenges he gets? Team resistance. First and foremost challenge, that team is not willing to implement the TMMi model. Why this is so? Because they are tight and the pressure from the delivery. QA teams may resist the change, viewing new processes as a bureaucratic overhead. They feel like it is overhead. It is a time consuming. We are going through the tight schedule. So why do we implement the processes? Then what is the another challenge? Is documentation gap. Existing processes often lack proper documentation, making baseline assessment difficult. Defects written are not proper. Test cases written are not proper. The test strategy is not covering everything. In scope and out scope items are not proper, and it leads to the testers which are writing the test cases, which is not proper. So there are a lot of documentation gaps are there. So this is a common problem which has been identified by the process consultants while implementing the TMMi process. Then the resource constraint, limited time and budget, create pressure to maintain the current practices. We have created everything, we have structured everything. TMMi process is been implemented up to the optimization level. But at some point of stage of the project, we are lagging over. The development is been stretched out, and testing team got very less amount of time to test. Then ultimately they will not follow the processes. They will focus on the deliverables only and less on the processes, and then resource constraint occurs. So these are the major obstacles which are coming out for the process consultant to implement the TMMi. So what he can do in these cases? The possible solutions can be there. Engage stakeholders early, right from the requirement phase. Add the testers into the projects. Demonstrate clear ROI. If you implement the TMMi, what can be ROI onto that? Quick wins to build the support and commitment. If they understand the TMMi well and the benefits of the TMMi, I'm sure that they will help the process consultant to implement it, whether they are into the pressure or anything at any situation. Implement incrementally. Don't just put out the pressure on the team at once, like we have to implement everything at once. Just incrementally, day by day, incrementally, phase by phase, put up some of the processes. First of all, go from ad hoc to manage to define to quantitatively measure, and then optimization. So slowly we move upon. So that brings the confidence over the team members as well to start with the high impact of the process areas and expand gradually. Provide the ongoing support. Offer the continuous training, mentoring, and accessible documentation. This is what the major role the process consultant has to play. There are a lot of ambiguity and questions and queries from the team over the following the processes. How to overcome that? Just have a communication, just have a regular connect with the team. Ask them, solve their solutions over the processes. That brings up the communication, that brings up the confidence of the team members over the processes. Celebrate the successes. If we are getting the success, we are getting the recognition from the customer over that. Celebrate that success. Show them that they have followed the TMMi and they have got the success. Recognize the improvement. Share the success stories across the organization. Tell the other projects as well. When we are following the TMMi, we have got this kind of successes. That brings up the confidence, and that brings up the boost into the team to follow it more. So these are some of the success criteria over implementing the TMMi. Now what is the key takeaway at the last from entire presentation is that success requires the strong leadership commitment, clear communication of the benefits, and patience to allow cultural transformation to take the root. So we have a strong leadership commitment is required, clear communication is required for the benefits, and the patience is required. So give that particular things, expectations to the team and the management, and you will be successful. Thank you very much.